Then you had here Joe Latino. He spoke out of turn.
Okay, Jason, you'll handle this one first.
Steve, excuse me, not to interrupt, but I need to add something to that, if I might.
So, Joe, I think that's fair to the other candidate.
Okay, all right.
You can do the closing remarks,
All right,
however.
thank you.
Okay.
But then he played by the rules and he mentioned his comment at the end. So all these politicians, and that's what they are, they're running for political office, and it's political because politics and the political thing, the political machine, politics, political. How are you not a politician? You're running for office. How are you not a politician?
Jason, what will you do to deal with the growing number of homeless people and panhandlers in Pueblo?
Thank you for that question, Steve. That's an important one. Our geographical location does make it very attractive for homeless and transients to come through to our beautiful community. Unfortunately, I see it often in my neighborhood. I do see what appears to be transients walking about. And, the street across from me, they actually let themselves in. They were squatters, and then the property ended up getting burnt. There was a structure fire on it.
So I can't stand that term transients because that's how they genocided the Native Americans. You just put savage on them. So instead of looking at them as individuals with individual issues and circumstances and, you know, desires and wants and, you know, emotions as individuals, instead of looking at them as individuals, they're all just a bunch of transients, they're all a bunch of trash, and then later on we're going to hear Aisha Yerin essentially say she don't give a damn about the homeless.
So there is a very real need. If elected to City Council, I would like to put together a task force or a committee to look at the opportunities of implementing a worker program for these individuals. I think that we need to reevaluate some of the criteria. We should encourage nonprofits to reevaluate the criteria of how who they're helping. But at the very least, I do believe that our community should have a homeless shelter, especially for homeless families. Thank you.
At the very end, you heard Jason Munoz. He said that we do need a homeless shelter. So he did get around to it, and that tells me two things. One, we don't have a homeless shelter. Here in Pueblo City, we don't even have a homeless shelter. So Posada is just a nonprofit, and then that Wayside Mission, which is closed, they don't even try to call them, and it's closed. So we're paying the church, and we're paying this Posada group, and they're not even doing, you know, they're clearly over capacity. They cannot handle the thousands of homeless people, including the 1,000 children. My God, we don't have $1 million for the homeless children. We are going to spend $315 million, though. $315 million for the jail, $35 million for 300 or $18 million for 2B. So we got millions of dollars when it comes to taking a nightstick and cracking your kid over the head, but we don't have $1 million to put them in a shelter. We don't have $1 million.
But at the very least, I do believe that our community should have a homeless shelter, especially for homeless families. Thank you.
So I'm glad Jason Munoz was in favor of the shelter. So he did that, admits that, you know, we don't have a shelter, so we need a shelter, and then that he's in favor of a shelter.
But at the very least, I do believe that our community should have a homeless shelter, especially for homeless families. Thank you.
The businesses, they try to get it, I think, on Lake Avenue. We tried to get a homeless shelter here, but the businesses were like, well, we don't want that. We don't want to actually solve the problem at the root because we don't give a damn about their lives. As a business, we just want them swept off our streets, which is exactly what Aisha Yerin is going to say.
Charlotte?
Yes, I'm actually out there working with them right now. I'm asking them what do they think they need to, you know, be able to live a happy and successful life. I'm noticing that while I'm out there, there's ones that want to help and there's ones that don't. I would like to, first of all, provide a shelter for all of them because at this time I don't think we have any shelters available. I would like to also create, like Jason said, a program that has a job placement and home placement program for them. I would like to see maybe also possible education opportunities for them as well. But yes, homelessness is one of my top priorities, and those individuals know it themselves.
Woo! So Jason Munoz and Charlotte Perez were in favor of job placement. So that was what Jason Munoz had said first. He wanted a worker program. So that's how they're going to weed out the good from the bad, the ones that will do the job and do the work. And that's why we need public works. That's why we need public works. We should have a right to work. If there's a job, we have to have a job in order to live in America. So if you want to work, you should be allowed to work. We should have a real true blue right to work, not that anti-union propaganda. They don't actually believe in your right to work. They believe in your right to work for, diddly shit, but they won't enforce the public works projects and to offer free employment, not free employment, it'll be work and it'll be labor for pay, but employment for anybody who wants it. Coming up here is where Mark Aliff got booed at. He actually got booed at by some of the members in the crowd for what he said about homelessness, what he said about the homeless people specifically.
Bottom line is that city council and city government isn't a social services agency. So while we need to support the nonprofits that help out homelessness and things like that, I don't think that the city can do anything other than hire the patrolman that's necessary to enforce our laws. Our laws of loitering, sleeping on public property, sleeping on private property, we need to be able to address that. The hard fact is that Pueblo needs to become a community that doesn't accept that kind of behavior. If that's the image that we want to have, then that's what I would support.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to listen to the candidates and hear what they have to say. So let's allow them to do that, please.
So specifically, Mark Aliff points out loitering and sleeping on public and private property. So that's what he thinks is the biggest concern with the homelessness. He says we need more cops and we need to make sure that the laws that are on the books, there's no loitering and that people aren't sleeping on public or private property. Well, that's clearly true. Enforce the laws. Mark Aliff wasn't showing compassion. He wasn't showing what he's going to do to help the homeless people. So, okay, you've helped the businesses. The businesses get rid of the homeless panhandlers, but now how are they going to do with their lives? What are the homeless people actually, are they just going to be off to the side, and is that okay for Mark? And that's why the people booed, and then the moderator said, hey, don't boo, and then, I don't know if you heard it, but there was one lady who goes, no. So he says, hey, you need to listen to all these candidates, and then one of the ladies go, no.
The candidates and hear what they have to say, so let's allow them to do that, please. The candidates and hear what they have to say, so let's allow them to do that, please. The candidates and hear what they have to say, so let's allow them to do that, please.
So she did comply, she did shut up, but when he said, hey, you all need to listen to these candidates, she did show some little fighting spirit, right? No, I won't shut up. And then she did.
Obviously, I would agree that it is an issue here. While I don't have the perfect answer, I do know that we certainly can't turn our back on the homeless. I also do think that there's something to be said for a fresh pair of eyes on the issue. Again, can't turn our back on them, and if I'm elected, I'd like to think that we could come up with some sort of solution for the homeless.
Woo! Finally, Kevin Covert, I forget, he said his name was very particular. Let's go Kevin. Kevin the candidate. So I'm very impressed with Kevin. Kevin got his debate moment. This was it. Right after Mark Aliff got booed by saying the homeless people don't need to sleep on public or private property and that they shouldn't be loitering, he got booed for saying that. Mr. Kevin, the candidate. So Mr. Kevin, the candidate, he comes in and he goes, I'm not going to turn my back on the homeless.
It is an issue here. While I don't have the perfect answer, I do know that we certainly can't turn our back on the homeless.
So that does differentiate, and I don't remember Mark Aliff actually correcting that, saying that he does care and that he's not going to turn his back on the homeless. He may have, but I don't recall it. And so good moment, good move by Mr. Kevin. Mr. Kevin did a good job. That was incredible. He's not going to turn. Basically, Mr. Kevin was a conservative, but this Mr. Conservative isn't going to turn his back on the homeless. Now, that's just a line, it's a promise, but I'd like to think I'll give Kevin the benefit of the doubt, and let's hope that he doesn't turn his back on the homeless, and let's hope that any of these candidates who get elected, none of them turn their back on the homeless. I would be most afraid of Aisha Urin turning her back on the homeless, and a little bit from Mark Aliff. So I do need to hear something from Mark Aliff saying that he actually gives a damn about the lives, especially of the 1,000 children. So Mark Aliff and Aisha Urin, there's 1,000 kids in Pueblo City right now. Kids. So the parents, maybe you could say it's all their fault, but the kids, are you going to blame the kids? So what I propose is we need to get 1,000 homes. 1,000 homes for 1,000 kids. Either we get these abandoned buildings and we get them cleaned up. If that's not possible, then we start building cheap housing. There's 8 acres on the D60 has 8 acres that's not being used, and then the El Pueblo Boys and Girls Club is available. So there's your space. There's where the homeless kids town, Big Rock Candy Mountain for the homeless kids of Pueblo City over at the El Pueblo Boys and Girls Club, at the El Pueblo Boys and Girls Ranch. That's where our homeless kids should be living. 1,000 homeless kids. 1,000 homeless kids. I need to know that you give a shit about those kids. 1,000. If you have the political will, we can actually solve this thing. And do it for very inexpensive, very cheap. $1 million. For $1 million, I could solve the 75% of your homelessness issues for $1 million.
You know, the homeless issue is really not just a Pueblo issue. It's a national issue.
Dennis Flores makes a very smart point that this is a national issue, which means we could just sweep it under the rug and expect Trump to do it, or we could realize Trump's not going to do shit about it, so we have to do something ourselves. The problem with giving lots of free handouts and free stuff to homeless is that it could encourage more homeless. So what I would propose to do is just take care of the 1,000 kids, the ones that are here, the ones that are Pueblo. They're born and raised here. They went to our schools. They are our kids. So the ones who are our children, those who are from Pueblo, we need to take care of our own citizens. So we don't need to push our own citizens. For those who want to leave, I think we should buy them a bus ticket. That gets them, I mean, that could just be as a compassionate thing. They could just be one city away. You know, they want to go to a different city, but they ended up here, and now they're stuck. They can't get, you know, the hitchhike and ride to go where they want to go. So a bus ticket to the people that want it, that might solve maybe 1% of the homeless. But I think that that's a good idea. It's a compassionate approach, not just telling them to leave, but actually offering them if they wanted to go somewhere else, if they're stuck in Pueblo, but they think they would be better off somewhere else. And then after that, then we have the El Pueblo Boys and Girls Club, the ranch, 1,000 homeless kids, 1,000 homeless kids, and they should have homes. That's the problem, and that's a crime on you, society. That's a crime on you, Pueblo City. You've been ignoring the homelessness because you don't give a crap. We need to give a crap. We need to give a damn. We could build tiny houses, small houses, very inexpensive, contour crafting, 3D printing. You know, let's just have a tent city. Hell, let's allow them to have a tent city somewhere in the outskirts of town. Let's get, you know, an acre. There's, you know, plenty of acres around here, so let's get 1 acre or 2 or 3, and then have a cop that's there always, and then raise some of them up, and then make, you know, deputize them, give them some power, give them some responsibility, give them some ownership. And they'll take pride in themselves, and they'll take pride in their community. And then with the police officers being on site at all times, now you got, you know, you're seeing everything that's going on. So I think that's a perfect solution. You actually solve it at its root, and you'll see it in the long terms. In the long term, you'll have less crime. You'll have less, you know, bullshit that happened. Right now, they're desperate. They're living out in the streets. They're desperate. So something could just happen out of nowhere, right? Just happen right on your front lawn. Or they could just be walking by and, you know, just see a glass door, an open door or something, hop on in, try to take your stuff because they're desperate and they have no places to go. And Mark Aliff wants to pass laws to say they can't even sleep on the public or the private spots. So that's for the rich people too, right? So the rich people, you can't sleep under a bridge anymore. To the rich people, you can't sleep on sidewalks anymore. This is only for the poor. This is only for the homeless. So while businesses and residents need to be safe from the heroin junkies and the homeless people, the heroin junkies and homeless people are individuals, and some of them are our children, and they're here in Pueblo City, and we need to take care of them. If we have the political will, we can do this. If we have the political will. And Kevin Colbert, he says that he's not going to turn his back on him, and, you know, I hope that that's true. I hope that's true.
And it really revolves around so many issues, whether it's homeless veterans, whether it's people with mental health issues. So the problem has to be solved comprehensively. And ironically, I just made an appointment today to meet with the people that will be renovating the Wayward Cross Mission. And I believe that people like that and Stottleman with Posada, we need to get together with these people and come up with some viable solutions in trying to deal with this issue on many fronts. I think a lot of times we have all these fragmented departments and nonprofits that do their own little thing but leave all these gaps. And I believe that we have an obligation as a society, to be empathetic toward people that find themselves in that position. And I think City Council does have a role. We can support the nonprofits that are doing a good job in the community.
Aisha Urin starts out strong. She says that there is no correlation between homelessness and marijuana. And that's absolutely true. Marijuana does not mean that you're going to be homeless. The thing is that it's legal here, so that's encouraging more people to come. So that's why they're trying to put it on marijuana, but there's nothing inherently in marijuana that makes a person homeless. Aisha Urin has got her science right when it comes to homelessness versus marijuana.
Aisha?
Well, being in the cannabis industry, we get blamed for the homeless problem all the time. I want to make it clear that there is no correlation from homelessness to cannabis. Denver did a sweep a few years ago, moved them all to Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs did a sweep, and they all came to Pueblo.
So essentially, Aisha Urin, she thinks that the homeless all came from Denver and Colorado Springs. Denver swept them out because that's what you do. You can sweep people out. They were swept out of Denver, and then they went to Colorado Springs, swept out of Colorado Springs, and that's why they're here in beautiful Pueblo, this nice, beautiful, sunshine, small town. They came here because they went ahead and did police sweeps to get them all out of the city.
We have a wonderful, warm city. I also believe that our community has too many handouts. We're handing out to the homeless too much, and the homeless people talk. They know where to go, and they know what areas to go to. They know what organizations to go to get those handouts.
So there's not even a homeless shelter, and Aisha Urin is sitting there saying we give out too much, we have too many handouts, there's too much free stuff. Oh yeah, it's a great paradise. If you're homeless, my God, it's just a big rock candy mountain. Free food, free drinks, free everything, right? You get a shelter and you get clothing, it's like come right on in. Here's a bunch of free stuff. Guess what, Aisha Urin? There's no place like that. There's absolutely no place like that. There's no shelter. We don't even have a homeless shelter. So you're going to sit there and say there's plenty of stuff? There's not even a shelter for the homeless kids, for those 1,000 homeless kids which you don't care about. So Aisha Urin, she absolutely knows the homeless people, and basically they're a monolith. They're all one big group, and all the homeless people, all the thousands of homeless in Pueblo City, they all get together and they know everything. They know where all the free stuff is, and they're very organized, and they're so organized. They haven't organized to where they could get themselves a homeless town. So she thinks that they're a monolith, like a little army going around just getting free stuff. That's not the case, Aisha. You're not even close.
I also agree that there are people who need help and want help, but there is also those people who prefer to be homeless.
So now Aisha Urin is saying, okay, not only do I not give a crap about the homeless people, some of the homeless like what they do. They like being out there. They don't want to live in the hole, and then that's why we need the police to hit them over the head with a nightstick to sweep them out. Just sweep them on down to Trinidad, right? So just sweep them on out to Colorado City. Get out of here. Just do the same thing she thinks that Denver did with the homeless.
And we just need our police officers, and that goes along with public safety once again, to make sure that these homeless people are held accountable for breaking loitering laws.
For breaking loitering laws, right? Hey, don't you loiter. Don't you sleep on my property. Don't sleep on private property, public property. I don't care if you sleep at all. I don't care if you sleep at all.
I spent some time the other day with a lady by the name of Rosemary, who's the assistant to Father Tomas' whole family. And she said to me, Joe, Posada has no more money. Catholic Charities has no more money. So they're coming here now. They know where to come. They know where to go. As an example, a mother, a father, 2 children, and a grandmother showed up in a car saying, we can't get any help. We don't have any food. We have no place to stay. So the two ladies that are making minimum wage got them a place to stay.
So if Rosemary helped a family, that's what we need to do. There was a family that needed a home. Apparently they didn't know where to go. Apparently they didn't talk to the Aisha homeless, the big monolithic homeless people that's totally organized, and they're all, you know, sitting there plotting out the points. We're going to get some food here. We're going to get some, you know, this here and that there. So they don't have a home. They don't have a home. So they can't be that organized.
Okay? Folks, we need to realize, we talk about marijuana, we talk about drugs, it's rampant, all right? We need to be focused on those kinds of things in this community. The state of Arizona is an example. The state of Arizona, the former governor of Colorado, the Republican Bill Owens, and the former mayor of Denver, Wellington Webb, were both on TV on every single station there a year ago. Okay? And their message was no, 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 no. This is what it brought us. Okay? Wellington Webb standing down on the river at Cherry Creek, stating with a news reporter, oh, by the way, I have two sons that are lawyers and one lives on the street. Come on, folks. Let's get back to reality here. It's a problem, and we need to deal with it. And how do you deal with it? That's the question. Do I have an answer? No, but I'd be willing to work to find that answer.
So that was a very long-winded statement where he essentially concluded he doesn't have the answer, but he's frustrated with the things that are going on, and he's willing to work. So he recognizes the problem, and he says that we need to fix it just like Kevin Cover did, just like Aisha Urin and Mark Aliff did not. So in conclusion, with all these 7 at-large candidates, what their position was on the homelessness question. First, you got Joe Latino. He didn't have any ideas, but the homelessness question frustrated him a lot. So the homelessness question frustrates Joe Latino. He's the only person in that category. The ones who were empathetic towards the homeless, the ones who believe that city council has a role, that they can do something about the homelessness problem, was Dennis Flores, Kevin Couver, I think Couver, it's Cover, right? Mr. Kevin, the candidate. So Mr. Kevin, and then Mr. Dennis Flores, and Charlotte Perez. She was for a homeless shelter and work programs too. She agreed with Jason Munoz, and Jason Munoz was for a homeless shelter. Jason Munoz called for a homeless shelter. Charlotte Perez recognized that we did not have a homeless shelter at all here in the city. Both of them were calling for work programs for the homeless. So Kevin Cover, Charlotte Perez, Jason Munoz, and Dennis Flores all give a shit about the homeless. When it comes to the 1,000 kids in Pueblo City, Dennis Flores, Mr. Kevin, Charlotte Perez, and Jason Munoz will not turn their backs on the 1,000 children who are homeless here in Pueblo City. We're not going to turn our backs on our own children just because they happen to be homeless. Now, Aisha Urin, she came off as being really filthy rich, stuck up, like she doesn't have one drop of empathy for the poor. I could see Aisha Urin say, let them eat cake. I could see Aisha Urin going to Puerto Rico and throwing paper towels at the people. Now, I feel like I'm hoping that Mark Aliff just didn't get around to his homelessness plan, that he had only pointed out what the law enforcement should do in order to make, room for business, but we can't forget about the homeless. He said that city council has no responsibility whatsoever with the homelessness, but I disagree with him. So far, Mark Aliff, his homelessness policy is to get more police, to ticket, to arrest the loiterers and the sleepers, those people who sleep on sidewalks and in the public and in abandoned buildings, private property. So Mark Aliff is going to arrest all the homeless. So far, that is his homelessness plan. I hope there's a second part to that plan. But it's very clear that filthy rich Aisha Urin doesn't give a damn about the homeless, the 1,000 homeless children in Pueblo City at all, whatsoever. She's probably more likely to put them into a cauldron, but she just doesn't give a damn. So definitely, 100%, without a doubt, filthy rich Aisha Urin has no political will to getting those 1,000 homeless children some shelter, or anybody else for that matter. So where we have Mr. Kevin, he said he won't turn his back on the homeless, and I'm glad he said that. It was a good moment for Kevin. He's not going to turn his back on the homeless. He's not going to do that. But Aisha Urin definitely will. She definitely will. Just like Mark Aliff, that's what they said. They definitely will turn their back on the homeless. The thing that they care about the homeless is when they start to bother the middle class, when they start asking for change, when they're sitting outside the businesses. So only when they bother the middle class, that's when they're going to get involved. And so while people don't have to be terribly intelligent, all they need is the political will. The political will to do something. I do believe in this, and I'm going to do something about it. So the only people that I trust that will do anything when it comes to the homelessness question is Dennis Flores. He says he is going to support the nonprofits. So he believes in Posada and Wayside. He did not mention any support for a shelter. Kevin Cover said he won't turn his back on the homeless. Both of them care, but neither one of them said the shelter. Both Jason Munoz and Charlotte Perez, they both talked about the homeless shelter. Jason Munoz called for the homeless shelter, and both Charlotte and Jason called for work programs too. Charlotte pointed out the lack of a shelter, but it was Jason Munoz who says we need to get a shelter and that he would support it. And then Joe Latino, he didn't have any ideas, but the homelessness question frustrated him a lot, and he was willing to work with others in order to get this homelessness question solved. So Joe Latino seems to have a political will, whereas Aisha Urin and Mark Aliff do not.